Good evening, you're watching This Week, a weekly news review program. I'm your host, Susanna Oktay. So for this week, we have, starting from the new school year, professional psychologists will start working at schools. Tavan Tolgoi Fuel will start operating at full capacity from next month. Frontline workers are voluntarily receiving third vaccine shot. For other news, stay tuned. Starting from the new school year, professional psychologists will start working at schools. The Ministry of Education believes that this will have a positive impact on how children communicate and their upbringing. This year, psychologists will start working in 60 schools according to the Ministry of Education and Science in Kamotlang. In the future, all schools will have professional psychologists. The biggest victims of the pandemic are children. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, children have been cut off from life and restricted from seeing their friends. According to a study by the Ministry of Education, children are more likely to feel stressed. School psychologists will meet with teachers and provide professional advice.
The great work of finding qualified psychologists will begin this fall. Research has shown that parents and primary caregivers experience a great deal of stress and frustration among children as a result of 2 years from practice during the pandemic. So starting from the new school year, 60 schools will have professional psychologists. In the future, we plan to employ psychologists in all public schools.
There are about 20 to 30 children in one class. Relationships vary from child to child depending on the family's upbringing. In some cases, high school students tease and discriminate against each other. Psychologists explain that these changes the child's look on life. Therefore, it is necessary for every school to have a professional psychologist. It is very important to have a school psychologist. If a teacher tells the psychologist that a child needs counseling, the psychologist goes through the stages with the child individually. Psychologists need targeted training on how to support the right atmosphere in a classroom. School psychologists have been selected. In the future, it is planned to train school psychologists on a regular basis. A 12-year-old Mongolian pianist took second place at the international piano competition titled Golden Classical Music Awards. He was awarded with the opportunity to play at the world prestigious Carnegie Hall in October.
This year, the International Golden Classical Music Awards was held online due to COVID-19 restrictions. Participants from over 30 countries sent in their performance videos. Mongolian participant, 12-year-old Tavan competed in the 9 to 12 years age group and took the second prize. The award ceremony will be held in October at the world-famous Carnegie Hall in New York, USA. Along with his piano teacher, will visit New York and showcase his piano performance.
For this competition, I played Mozart, Sonata and Rondo. I love playing piano because it challenges my brain. Lately, I've been learning to play Chopin's Mazurka.
Music makes a man more sympathetic. It gives people many benefits and trains them to be calm and persistent.
is an amateur pianist. He started playing the piano 4 years ago when he was 8 years old. When he was 6, he auditioned for the Mongolian State Conservatory but couldn't pass the exam. Yet he pursued the piano as a hobby. This year, he successfully attended an international competition and earned second prize. This will give him the opportunity to play at Carnegie Hall in October.
The Prime Minister of Mongolia, got acquainted with the winter preparations of the Tavan Tolgoi Fuel company. More than 170,000 households in their districts of the capital city need about 600,000 tons of coal briquettes to survive the cold winter.
The briquettes are produced only for urban residents. This has led to various cities' fuel needs to the countryside. This issue is still under discussion, as the mayor will pay special attention to this issue and not export briquettes to other areas without proper permission. The fuel is needed to supply heat. The aim is to provide the city's residents with fuel that is in accordance with air pollution reduction standards without losing heat. This issue is being overseen by the Minister of Energy and the government. As of today, the preparation of 2 coal briquette production is complete. Production started today. At the Western plant, an average of 1,200 to 1,500 tons of coal briquettes are being prepared daily for production. Today, 6 out of 12 lines at the Western plant are operational. Renovation work in the other provinces has not been completed or commissioned. Within this week, renovations will be complete and the plants will be put into operation to produce coal briquettes. In other words, the production capacity of the improved briquettes will increase week by week. The Western plant has a production capacity of 3,100 tons of coal briquettes daily.
Last week, vegetable vendors complained that they need designated spots for their seasonal selling. Several vendors were dismissed by police officials. However, now they are officially allowed to resume outdoor selling.
At this time of the year, farmers from all corners of the country harvest the vegetables, and mass trade and selling are organized in the capital city. Last week, vegetable vendors started coming to the city and selling their vegetables. But due to the lack of proper organizing, some were confronted by police officials. Since Friday, this issue has been resolved after discussion between city officials and representatives of the vegetable vendors.
I understand that the vegetable vendors are incurring lots of costs for growing vegetables, storing, transporting and selling. The vegetables arrive at the market via many steps. The marketplace is their final point, therefore every district administration must refine the organization of public selling and buying.
District administrators received orders to exempt taxes for vegetable vendors and provide them with selling locations. At this point, parking lots and outside areas of markets have been turned into vegetable selling spots. Farmers coming from the countryside must direct their requests to the district administrations.
Recent statistics show that the frequency of natural disasters is increasing around the globe. In Mongolia's case, desertification and possible droughts are becoming major threats.
In the last 70 years, the annual average temperature has risen by 2.1 degrees Celsius in Mongolia. The ice caps of the mountain have shrunk by about 30%. The impact of climate change is worsening around the world. Mongolia is facing the danger of further desertification and the shortage of water sources, which are already happening. Mongolia is also identified as one of the 10 countries that are most vulnerable to the impact of climate change. These days, the smoke of Siberian wildfires has been felt in Mongolia. If the wildfires continue to rage, it has the possibility to enter Mongolia.
There are several methods to prevent raging wildfires. The instant extinguishing is most important. However, this year Mongolia has infrequent rainfall and the climate is staying moist, so the risk of wildfires is relatively low.
The impact of climate change is becoming more noticeable with current wildfires and floods all around the world. The rising temperatures and droughts are the main cause of the ongoing massive wildfires.
It says that more than 13.4 million hectares of land have been burned due to the wildfires around the globe. But wildfires are still raging. The main cause of this disaster is definitely climate change and human impacts. We are witnessing the direct consequences of carbon dioxide emission.
Experts note that the frequency of climate-related disasters, including wildfires, floods, tsunamis, and landslides, are increasing. It raises an urgent call to take action for the world countries.
Herder Irtenbatter reduced his livestock numbers to 300 from 1,000, and he says he's gaining the same profit as when he had 1,000 livestock.
The profit I gained from 300 livestock is equal to that from 1,000 livestock. Previously, when I had lots of livestock, I sold a 2-year-old lamb for around 60,000 tugruk. Now I sell them for over 150,000 tugruk, because they are bigger in size and carry quality meat.
Herder Irtenbatter lives in Hop province. Traditionally, a herder who has 1,000 livestock is honored by the state. Irtenbatter had qualified for that honor, but he refused the offer. He understood that the high number of livestock requires lots of extra efforts, but bring less benefits. Now he focuses on each individual livestock and prefers quality over quantity. Herder Irtenbatter has also become part of the effective pasture usage program run by his community. Early on, yak wool wasn't used as raw material. Now it has become beneficial thanks to a refined production system.
There was a time that yak wool wasn't used at factories and it just dissolved in nature. Since yak wool has become a popular raw material like cashmere, we have been able to sell it and gain extra income.
The pasture land degradation and desertification are becoming serious environmental concerns these days. Herder Irtenbatter says, by having a lower number of livestock, the grazing capacity of the pasture land won't be exceeded, and it allows the environment to regenerate.
Frontline workers who are battling with COVID receiving their third shot of vaccine on a voluntary basis.
In Mongolia, health staff have started getting a third shot or so-called booster shot voluntarily. Whether the public should receive the booster shot is still under consideration. Studies show that 30% of the recent confirmed COVID-19 cases are caused by the Delta variant. In Mongolian province, 80% of the cases are reported as Delta virus.
The spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant is intensifying in Mongolia. The situation is serious in some provinces, especially Bayoutli and Hof provinces. Due to the holiday season and public festivals, a high number of COVID-19 Delta variant cases have been confirmed outside Ulaanbaatar city. Variant cases have been confirmed outside Ulaanbaatar city.
Since the spread of Delta virus is intense these days, the Ministry of Health approved the booster shot for the frontline workers.
The World Health Organization hasn't yet suggested a third vaccine shot for the general public, but some countries have already started giving booster shots. As for Mongolia, the Delta virus is spreading rapidly. The third wave of coronavirus is coming closer, therefore we decide to give a booster shot to our medical and police staff as a prevention measure.
International studies suggest that the effects of the double-shot vaccines will degrade after about 6 months. Some countries have already started giving the boosters. Israel became first country to give a third shot to people over 50s. Scientists say one can still be infected by the coronavirus after the 2 shots of vaccines plus booster shot. But vaccines have proved to minimize any health complications and the risk of fatalities.
In recent days, the number of calls regarding snakes entering residential areas has increased. According to the Ulaanbaatar Department of Nature and Environment, more than 90% of the snakes that enter the city are venomous snakes called throat snakes.
A man was bitten by a snake while swimming somewhere in the capital city. Doctors warn that snake venom spreads rapidly throughout the body and is life-threatening. In recent days, snakes have appeared in the city area, and 4 to 5 snake-related calls have been recorded daily at the capital city Department of Nature and Environment. Therefore, doctors advise people to go to hospital in case of a snake bite.
Last year, about 40 people were bitten by snakes and no deaths were reported. This year, 1 death has been reported. Venomous snakes usually bite the joints first, will enter the body. Therefore, if you need urgent medical attention, and in most cases you need some antidote, but sometimes you might need surgery.
According to a 2016 study, 2 types of snakes, the thyroid snout and the spring snake, are common around the capital city. According to the Ulaanbaatar Department of Nature and Environment, snakes are entering the city in search of food or with flood waters. Snakes that have entered the city are returned to the wild.
In 2021, we received more than 40 snake-related calls from Ulaanbaatar city area. There was an increase in calls over the last 2 weeks. The Ulaanbaatar City Department of Environment takes care of the snakes and puts them back into the wild.
Citizens who have seen snakes in urban areas need to call 323-780 immediately. Experts also warn that it is important to keep an eye on the snakes until a person arrives from the capital's Environment Department.
With the funding of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, an anti-desertification project is being carried out in Tavan province. During the visit of the Minister of Environment, local people noted that certain plant species are losing their richness year by year.
According to the 2017 desertification assessment made in Altan-Shiresum of Tavan province, the whole area was dry and arid. The number of plant species was reduced and they had lost their vivid appearance. The soil was heavily damaged. The impact of desertification is still affecting this area today.
The land is completely covered by sand. Now we see only a few species of plants such as capillary wormwood and aerial parts. If you are lucky, we can see them up to 3 days. This summer we experienced less rainfall in this area only in June. Also in April, 2 strong sandstorms occurred here. It heavily affected the growth of plant species. Now the land is still looking barren.
Local administrators said herders can't prepare any hay and fodder this fall due to the scarce vegetation. The Minister of Environment and Tourism, Mrs. Ortnason, was introduced to the implementation process of the anti-desertification project funded by the United Nations. She noted that the government will pay more attention to the effectiveness of the project and its real-life results. As for today, there are 8 provinces that are facing severe desertification and loss of plant diversity.
With the start of the general entrance exam, universities are finalizing their admissions procedures. Every year, tuition fees come to the attention of parents. For this year, the ministry has instructed universities not to increase tuition fees.
In this report, we highlight the University of Education and the Mongolian University of Science and Technology. Mongolian University of Science and Technology plans to enroll more than 5,000 students in 142 majors. They will be admitted from the 24th to 27th of this month. Tuition fees have not changed in the last 2 years. The average student fee is 2,700,000 Mongolian tugruk.
For this school year, we have approved a calendar. The new school year will begin on August 30th. However, on August 30th, only sophomores and above will start taking online classes. As for enrollment, this year it will be online as it has been for the last 3 years. Therefore, we believe that first-year students will likely study in classrooms from September 13th.
It has been announced that the curriculum will run as normal from September 13th onwards, while starting on August 30th. There are still many questions as to whether tuition fees will change if the classes are held online. The Mongolian University of Science and Technology has announced that it will not increase tuition fees. At the University of Education, about 20% of all students who take the entrance exam are enrolled in 49 majors. For them, online classes will start from September 1st and classroom training will start from September 13th.
There is a rule that 2 entries in the specialty of the entrant must have a score of 480 or higher. According to this regulation, the school will develop a regulation and start enrollment. I understand that this year we will have classes in classrooms, and in any case, the first week will be spent online, and some of the lectures will be taught online. Other seminars will be held in the classroom. Our tuition fees have not changed in the last 2 years. During the COVID-19 pandemic, students had to study online for the past 2 years. Starting this fall, we have decided that we will not increase fees at state-owned universities.
The average tuition fee at the University of Education is 2,340,000 Mongolian tugruk. Students who paid for their dormitory fees last year will be able to get their tuition refunded at their request and will be able to transfer it to this year's dormitory fees.
Well, that's all for this week. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you next week with more stories and updates. Please follow MNB World on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.